Hi, welcome to Shekinah's Math Center. In this video, we will be taking notes on identifying integers. When the temperature falls below zero, we use negative integers. Think about riding in an elevator. Floors above ground are represented with positive integers, while floors below ground are represented with negative integers. In football, when a quarterback gets sacked, their team loses yards, reflecting a negative integer. For this lesson, you will need paper, pencil, and a highlighter. Take a moment, grab what you need, and let's get started. Let's go over some vocabulary words. Whole numbers are the number 0 and your counting numbers. Your counting numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those numbers, those are your counting numbers. But the definition of whole numbers, it starts at 0. So it's 0 and then your counting numbers. Now let's go over integers. The definition of integers, they are whole numbers which are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and their opposites. So, for example, the opposite of 1 is -1. The opposite of 2 is -2. The number 0 is an integer. Integers do not have fraction bars or decimals when they are simplified. Now let's go over opposites. Opposites are two numbers that have the same distance away from 0 on a number line. Now let's look at the two examples. The first one says the opposite of 5 is -5. That is because 5 and -5, they are both 5 spaces away from 0. The next example says the opposite of -3 is 3. That is because -3 is 3 hops away from 0, and +3 is also 3 hops away from 0. Here we have a number line. We are going to first finish labeling it. Notice we do have a starting point of 0, which is in the middle. 0 will not always be in the middle, okay? And your number lines may not always skip count by 1. They might skip count by 2s, or they might skip count by 5. For this number line, we will skip count by 1s. So our 0 is here. Let's go right first. So to the right of 0, you will have all of your positives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If this is 0, then that means right here is -1. If this is 0, this is -1, then -2, then -3. Label these with me. We have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, and -9. As you move right on the number line, right, is this way. The values get larger. As you move left, that's this way, on the number line, the value gets smaller. Now let's practice identifying integers. Remember, integers are whole numbers. So I'll make a quick note at the bottom right here. Whole numbers, which is 0, 1, 2, etc. And their opposites. So like -1, -2, -3, etc. Another thing to remember is that we cannot have fraction bars, so no fractions and no decimals. This is when simplified, okay, after we simplify it. So if we're given a fraction, simplify it first. If you get a whole number or the opposite of a whole number, then it is an integer, okay? So let's practice. Our first one is 7.0. 7.0 is the same as 7. The 0 holds no value. So 7.0 and 7 are the same. So 7.0 is an integer. 3/4. We have a fraction, and this is simplified, 3 out of 4. 3/4 is not an integer, it is less than 1 whole. So that is not an integer. -2.0. So here we have a negative, and we also have a decimal. That 0 holds no value. So this is the exact same thing as -2. -2 is the opposite of 2. Okay, so remember, integers are whole numbers and they're opposites. So we have 2. The opposite of that is -2. That is an integer. The next one says 1/2 or 1 out of 2. That is less than 1 whole. That is not an integer. 0 is an integer. This is a common misconception. Some students identify 0 as it not being an integer. It is, in fact, an integer. Our next one is 200. It is a larger number. It is a whole number. This is an integer. It's a whole number. Now we have 4 and 5/10. This is not an integer. It is between 4 and 5. 4 is a whole number and 5 is a whole number, but 4.5 or 4 and 5/10, that is not an integer. Okay, our next one, we have a fraction. So we have to simplify it. I will show work down here because I have more space. So if we have 10 divided by 5, that equals 2. 2 is an integer. That equals 2. Sorry, that does not look like a 2. That's better. That is an integer. All right, -9. That is the opposite of 9. That is an integer. -1. That is the opposite of 1. So -1 is an integer. Now let's go over some words or phrases that will help you determine if your situation will reflect a positive integer or a negative integer. So let's start with the word deposit. When you deposit money into your bank account, the amount of money in your bank account will increase, reflecting a positive situation. Another word is earn. When you earn money or if you earn points, that is a positive situation. Gain. If you gain points, that is a positive situation. Above. If something is above water, that would be a positive situation. Increase. If a business has an increase in revenue, meaning they are earning more money, that would be a positive situation. Won. If you won a game, that would be a positive situation. Ascend is another one. Ascend. That means going up. That is a positive situation. When a plane takes off, it ascends into the air. That is a positive situation. Profit. This is another word. Profit. When your business earns a profit, that is a good thing. Rise. When temperatures rise, they increase. The temperature goes up. That reflects positive. And then add. When you add, that is going into the positive direction, positive situation. Now let's talk about some keywords for negative. So if you lose, or if you have a loss, or if you've lost, this is a negative situation. Withdrawal. Withdrawal is the opposite of deposits. So when you withdraw money from your bank account will reflect a negative situation. It will say minus on your bank account statement because money was taken out of your bank account. Dive. When you dive, you are going down into the water. That is a negative situation. Another word is descend. When a plane descends, that means they are landing. They are coming from in the air and they are going down towards land. So that is a negative situation. Drop. If there is a drop in temperature, that means it is decreasing. That is a negative situation. Decrease. Decrease. So if there is a decrease in your bank account, that is negative. That is a negative situation. Below. Below water. That would be a negative situation. Owe. If you owe money to someone, that is a negative situation. Fall. If something falls, let's say 5 feet, that would represent a -5 because it is falling. It has fell 5 feet. Debt is another word that would reflect a negative situation. If you are in debt $100, that would mean -$100. There are plenty of words that can describe positive and negative situations. Which one came to your mind? Leave it in the comments below. and tell me whether if it represents a positive or negative integer. Let's see how many different words we can come up with. Now we will be given situations. First, we will identify the key word that will give us the hint of is this a positive or a negative? Then we will identify that exact integer. So, letter A, it says she dived 8 feet below sea level. Our keyword is dived, so you do want to highlight this. Dived is a negative. She dived 8 feet. Letter A will be -8. Now let's look at letter B. A plane ascended 1,500 feet. A plane ascended. So let's first highlight the word ascended. This is our keyword, meaning that it will be a positive. So the answer for letter B will be 1,500. Now let's look at letter C. It says the temperature dropped 12 degrees. Dropped is your keyword, meaning this will be a negative. It will be a -12 because it dropped 12 degrees. The quarterback lost 20 yards on a play. Yikes. That's a lot of yards. Our key word is lost. So let's highlight that. Lost 20. So that is a -20. All right, letter E. I withdrew $100 from my bank account. So that means on our bank statement, it will reflect a -100. Let's highlight that word withdrew. And that would be a -100. I gained 3 pounds. Gained is your key word. Let's highlight the word gained. Gained reflects a positive, so this will be a +3. And you can just write 3. You don't have to write the +3. If you don't write the plus, it's an automatic positive. Letter G. I deposited a $40 check into my bank account. So the key word here is deposit or deposited, sorry. That reflects a positive situation, meaning that the money in the account has increased. So this would reflect a +40. Letter H. The temperature rose 9 degrees by noon. Your keyword is rose, meaning it increased. That's positive. So our answer is a +9. Letter I. I earned $80 mowing lawns. Keyword here is earned, meaning this will be a positive situation. Our answer is 80. Last one. I lost 5 points on my test. Lost is your keyword. Lost 5. So that integer would be a -5.